The pilots were stunned when their plane was suddenly surrounded by a dense ring of hundreds of birds that seemed to appear out of nowhere. They tried to slightly adjust their course, hoping to get rid of the persistent birds, but all their attempts proved unsuccessful. As some birds fell behind, new ones immediately took their place, and their numbers only increased, turning the situation into something terrifying and inexplicable. When the true reason for the incident was later revealed, everyone involved was shocked to their core. Experienced pilots, Captain Artyom Kovalov and co-pilot Nikita Orlov, were performing a routine commercial flight, and at first nothing foreshadowed trouble. The weather was clear, the sky was nearly cloudless, and the flight was proceeding smoothly and normally. However, sometime after takeoff, the plane was mysteriously surrounded by a massive flock of birds that stubbornly refused to leave. When Artyom tried to slightly change direction, it had no effect, and the birds continued to persistently escort the aircraft. Moreover, those that lagged behind were instantly replaced by others, as if the flock were infinite. Passengers, looking out the windows, experienced true terror, as the sky around them turned almost black from the sheer number of birds, and many felt that something completely surreal was happening. Even for experienced pilots, such a situation was unprecedented, and, for a moment, the captain felt as though these crazed creatures were trying to communicate something and even steer the plane back. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Artyom immediately contacted ground controllers, who instructed them to urgently change course and head for the nearest airport, which was at a significant distance. The pilots followed the order and turned the plane, but the persistent birds had no intention of leaving them alone, and the scene increasingly resembled an ominous precursor to a catastrophe. The situation was extremely dangerous, as even a single bird entering the engine could cause failure and serious consequences. Soon, the worst did happen. One of the birds flew directly into the engine. A sharp bang rang out. The plane began to vibrate violently, and the crew instantly realized that one engine had failed. Panic broke out in the cabin. Passengers screamed, and the captain quickly assessed the situation, concluding that they likely wouldn't make it to the airport on one engine, especially since there was a high probability of birds hitting the second engine as well. The only reasonable decision was to attempt a water landing, as they were flying over the sea at that moment. Even then, the plane would likely suffer serious damage, but with a successful outcome, most lives could be saved. Everyone held their breath, awaiting the climax, and thanks to the high skill of the pilots, they managed the near impossible: a relatively soft landing on the sea's surface. On the second attempt, the crew managed to open one of the emergency exits, towards which the passengers immediately rushed. However, many soon regretted their decision, as dozens of aggressive birds began attacking people, and the only way to escape was to dive into the water, discarding their life jackets. The crew noticed a strange detail. The birds were persistently circling specifically near the cargo hold, seemingly trying to get inside. About an hour later, Coast Guard boats arrived at the scene, as the pilots had maintained contact with controllers and provided exact coordinates. Thanks to the coordinated actions of the rescuers and the crew, all passengers were evacuated, and soon not a single person remained on board. Yet hundreds of birds continued to circle the plane, showing no desire to leave. Sometime later, a special vessel arrived to tow the relatively intact plane to shore. But as soon as the sailors began securing the lines, the birds became aggressive again and started attacking the men. The ship's crew then turned on special sirens emitting high-frequency sounds that scared the flock away, though the birds did not leave entirely and continued to hover at a distance, maintaining their interest in the aircraft. Investigators soon arrived at the scene to determine the cause of the incident. First, they interviewed the pilots, who recounted everything in detail, noting that in all their years of practice, they had never encountered such behavior from birds. According to Artyom, the answer could lie in the cargo hold, which had drawn such persistent attention from the birds. Police immediately detained all passengers pending investigation, and it was soon established that there was a man on board recently released from prison, where he had served time for smuggling prohibited goods. This suspicious passenger categorically refused to answer questions and remained silent. Therefore, everyone waited impatiently for the plane to be brought to shore to check the cargo hold. When the aircraft was finally on land, investigators rushed to it, while simultaneously fending off the birds, which became active again as soon as the sirens stopped. Strange sounds were coming from the cargo hold, and it soon became clear they originated from several large crates. When these crates were opened, those present were shocked by what they saw. Inside were hundreds of exotic birds, tightly locked in a cramped space. Some had not survived the flight, while others were on the verge of death and were making piteous sounds. It soon emerged that the former prisoner had decided to return to illegal activities and organize the transport of rare birds, sedating them before departure and hiding them in the cargo hold with the help of accomplices. However, some of the birds regained consciousness during the flight and began sending signals that were heard by their free kin. This was why the massive flock had acted so strangely and persistently, as if acting in a coordinated and conscious manner to save their fellows. All witnesses to the incident were amazed by the incredible organization of the birds and their desire to help. As for the culprit, whose actions nearly caused a catastrophe, he found himself behind bars again, and this time the punishment promised to be much more severe. Dear viewers, what do you think of this story? Please tell us in the comments. And if you like this video, give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye.